Let me ask you a question. Are you selling a product or are you solving a problem? It's a small shift in thinking, but it can completely transform your results. So let's dive into this. We're going to break down a playbook that helps you move beyond just talking about features and prices so you can start connecting with what really matters to your customer. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to look at the three biggest traps that salespeople fall into all the time. Then we'll introduce the hero of our story, the customer-focused seller. And finally, we'll unpack three really powerful, super easy to remember frameworks, the three R's, the three P's, and the three V's. Think of them as your secret cheat codes for mastering this entire approach. All right, let's start with what not to do. And believe me, these aren't just bad habits. They are genuine traps that totally limit your potential and can sabotage your success before you even really get started.
Now, as we go through these next three styles, I really want you to be honest with yourself. Ask the question, does any of this sound familiar? A little self-reflection right here can be a total game changer.
Okay, first up, we have the beggar. This is the salesperson who pleads and pretty much begs for the sale. And yeah, you might close a deal, but it's based on pity, not on value. And that means you're only going to get tiny, low-margin results. It's just not a sustainable way to build a career, right? Then you've got the price seller. This person's entire strategy, their whole playbook is just one thing: be cheaper. The problem is, there is always someone out there willing to be cheaper. This approach creates absolutely zero customer loyalty and basically turns you into a commodity, easily replaced by the next big promo that comes along. And finally, we have what is maybe the most common trap of them all, the product seller. This person knows every feature, every spec, every single technical detail. But here's the hard truth. Customers just don't care how great your product is. They only care about how it solves their problem. So this feature-focused approach, it leads straight to objections or, even worse, just total indifference. So if begging and discounting and just dumping a list of features are the traps, what's the escape route? Well, luckily there is a much, much more effective and honestly a more rewarding way to sell. And this brings us to our goal, becoming that fourth archetype. This isn't just about learning a different technique. It's about a completely different way of thinking about your role in the whole process. This right here is the absolute game changer. The customer-focused seller shifts the spotlight entirely. It stops being about your product or your price or your quota, and it becomes 100% about them, their priorities, their challenges, their goals. And when you make the shift, the sale becomes a natural outcome because you're no longer selling at them, you're solving a problem for them. Okay, so that all sounds good in theory, but how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it all begins in the first 60 seconds of any interaction. Let's break down the 3R framework, which gives you the perfect way to build a solid foundation for the rest of the conversation. A strong opening is all about the 3 R's. First is rapport. You've got to build a genuine connection. Find some common ground. Then you state your reason. Clearly lay out the agenda, and this is crucial, what the benefit is for them. This shows you respect their time. And finally, you ask for a response. Just check in. Ask if that agenda works for them. By inviting your input, you're not just stating a plan, you're creating a partnership. This simple process establishes you as a collaborator, not just another salesperson. So once you've opened the conversation effectively, it's time for the most critical phase, discovery. You see, before you can ever present a solution, you have to understand the problem on a really deep level. And this is where the 3P framework comes into play. Think of the 3Ps as your diagnostic tools. First, present. You need to get a clear picture of their current world. Ask something like, so how are you handling this now? Then, problem. This is where you become a bit of a detective, digging for the pain. What's the biggest challenge with that process? And finally, potential. This is where you help them build the vision. Ask them to imagine a better future. If you could wave a magic wand and improve one thing, what would it be? This process guides the customer to see the gap between where they are and where they really want to be. Okay, so at this point, the customer has literally told you their problem and their ideal future. You've now earned the right to present your solution. But you're not going to fall back into that old product seller trap. No way. Instead, you're going to use the 3V framework to connect your product directly to the needs they just shared with you.
This is how you build a case that's almost impossible to ignore. First, value. You directly tie their pain to your solution. So, if in the problem phase they said, my biggest issue is my skyrocketing electricity bill, your value statement is direct. You mentioned your high electricity bill. Well, our AC uses new technology that's specifically designed to cut energy consumption by up to 50%. See how powerful that is? Then you provide a visual, some kind of proof, and finally a value add, maybe something like free installation, just to make it an easy yes.
And this right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about with that second V, visual proof. Instead of just saying your AC saves money, you show them a simple table like this one. And all of a sudden, the benefit isn't some abstract claim, it's a tangible, believable number. The point is, whatever you use, data, a testimonial, a quick demo, proof is what transforms your claim into a credible fact in their mind.
Of course, objections are still going to come up. That's just part of the process. But now you can handle them like a consultant. Always, always start by clarifying their concern. It shows you're listening. If they express doubt, like, does it really work? That's your cue to bring in more visual proof. If they say they're happy with how things are, you need to highlight the unique advantages they're missing out on. And if the objection is about price, that's your signal to justify that cost by stacking up at least 3 compelling benefits that make the investment a total no-brainer.
You know, this quote right here really is the core message of this entire playbook. It all comes back to this one powerful idea. When you make the customer's world the center of your universe, the sale becomes a natural, logical outcome of you genuinely helping them out. It's a shift from persuasion to problem solving.
So here's your takeaway. Stop thinking about what you need to sell. Start thinking about who you can help. With this playbook in hand, I have just one question for you. What's the first customer problem you're going to go out and solve today?